I'm Dr. Tom Ulrich, and I like to talk about leadership and engineering. Hey, in this brief video, I'd like to talk about engagement. Now, the thing about engagement that you need to understand is it's part of a larger body of research. So the body of research is called followership. And it all goes back to a book that Robert Kelly wrote in the 90s. And if you want to read about it today, there's a great book by Ira Shalif. He is a practitioner, but a very good one and very articulate. And if you want a more academic book, The Art of Followership. Now, this is Ron Reggio, he is a big name in leadership theory, and then Ira Shalif, and then Gene Littman-Blumen, who's probably one of the three greatest living researchers in the world of leadership. So these are all the big names. But The Art of Followership it's a collection of peer-reviewed articles that really communicate the idea of followership concisely. Now, for our purposes, what we want to focus on is the fact that if you only think about engagement as a single dimension, like highly engaged, not too engaged, and actively disengaged, you get some undesirable results. Why is that? Well, it goes back to the research from the followership body of literature. So what it is Robert Kelly conceptualized followership in two dimensions, one of which is engagement, and the other is willingness to think critically for oneself. And you need to measure them both, and if you don't, you get some very bad false readings, and it goes kind of like this. So let's suppose you have somebody who is a sheep. They're just doing what they're told. They're not thinking critically for themselves. If you start to dive in and try to unravel the Boeing 737 MAX 8 fiasco, what you discover is there was a lot of sheep. A lot of people were the senior guys saying, yeah, there's something more important than safety, and people following in line with that. Next thing you know, you got a certified disaster. So you don't want sheep. And in fact, when you look at, what kind of employee correlates with good results is sheep don't. But the problem is if you just measure engagement, sheep alias as engaged because they are doing whatever the boss said that they want to do, and they kind of answer all the right questions. And if you don't also measure willingness to think critically for yourself, you include the sheep and get a false reading. Now, the other one is even more insidious. So Robert Kelly, when in his seminal work, he conceptualized followership as these two axes, and he said there's 5 groups. Now, of course, we're engineers, and you're thinking 2 axes, 5 groups, how's that work? Well, it goes like this. So there are the 4 combinations: high engaged, low engaged, and there's versus think critically for self, don't think critically for themselves. So there's 4 things. The 5th category is what he calls the pragmatics. And what those people are is the people who abandon the mission of the organization and are just in it for themselves. And they're not asking what's best for the organization. They're not asking, how can I most effectively help my boss? They're not asking, what's good for our users. They're only asking what's good for me. And again, the problem with pragmatics is if you measure it on only one dimension, is they alias as engaged. And so you can get these scores and tell yourself how wonderfully engaged your organization is. And if you don't have that second axis, you don't realize that in that score are the sheep, who are definitely not good for your organization, and are the pragmatics, who are definitely not good for your organization. At any rate, hopefully that helps. A few thoughts on engagement. Hey, if you like this video, you can find more. Type Dr. Tom Ulrich on YouTube, and boom, there we are. You can go to tomulrichconsulting.com. You'll find some videos there. Hey, can you give me a like, maybe subscribe? If you give me a comment, I'll comment back. Maybe I'll even make a video to answer your question. Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.